Writing Prompt Podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring writers, which means that we haven't written anything since preschool.
So we're doing a challenge. Each week we set a timer for 30 minutes. Our goal is to write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read the stories, we talk about what we learned in writing them, and then we talk about stories submitted by you listeners.
Exactly. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof media production.
A Doof thing.
I'm sick.
Yeah.
That's step 1. Before we get into anything, I'm sick.
Yeah.
I've been laid low by the plague.
You're sick. You're eating yogurt.
I am eating yogurt.
And you're on 3 Oxycontins.
No Oxy. I'm on a Moxie.
Oh, one
which
Moxie.
Is something else. Yeah, so I got strep throat a bit ago, and I've been laid low. I'm 2 inches tall, crushed by bacteria. So I'm working to get better, but so I meant to. So the first thing before we talk about anything else, I want to talk about my struggle right now.
What is Matthias going through?
Well, I tried to write my story early. Last episode, I said I would write it the day of, and then I started, and I didn't do it. And then I was going to do it the next day, but then I got strep throat, and then I wrote a paragraph a day for 5 days. It was not good.
I mean, that's a way to do it. Paragraph a day keeps the doctor away.
I apologize for any dip in quality. It's because I'm at the end of my rope. So yeah, that's me. That's my life.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're knocking on death's door.
I am.
Or 2 more hits. Gone forever.
I failed 1 death save.
Well, me, on the other hand,
yes,
I'm completely fine. So,
good.
I feel that Matthias doesn't have any excuses, honestly.
That's true. If you're fine, how could I not be fine?
Exactly. Don't we share the same vessel?
We normally record in the same room, but we've decided to record separately because I just want to keep Jarvis away from the quarantine that is my apartment because it's strep riddled.
Away from ground zero. Oh.
Fuck.
Oh, Jesus.
Matthias dies on air.
I will keep some of them, but not too many.
Yeah, just keep my death rattle. That's what I... Anyway, fuck, how does our podcast normally go? I'm destroyed. Oh, God.
Well,
I feel like I have worms in my brain.
We've talked about what we're doing right now, but let's take a look at what Doof is doing real quick.
Oh, well, the main thing that we need to be aware of is that next week is the due date for the Doof the Right Thing contest. It's the due date is January 17th, which is from the day of this coming out, 11 days from now. So or maybe 13. Very soon.
Exactly. So to be honest, you do have plenty of time to start, edit, and finish a really good piece that you could submit if you wanted to.
That's damn right. We already have some of the first of our submissions, just a couple, but yeah, it's pretty understandable that most people submit things at the last minute. I know I do that, taking advantage of every minute, but also, try to get started early. The earlier you get started on it, the more likely you're going to have ideas on how to make it better. So
exactly. So I'm personally excited to see all of these submissions. I'm ready to judge them harshly.
Well, actually, the
Patreons are actually judging it.
The submissions will be judged by our wonderful patrons. So donate at the $1 level or above turns you into an arbiter of justice, and you can see who gets dispensed with the award funds. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know that there's going to be some freaking amazing submissions. So that's the main thing going on in Doof. There's nothing much else going on. That's really just that.
I mean it's just Doof as usual.
Yeah, it's just the other podcasts like Do the Right Thing and Do the Right Thing. These are the only podcasts on Doof Media. Do the pact thing.
Do the ward thing.
Do the ward thing. Do the cast thing.
Mm-hmm.
Doof the cast thing. Sorry.
Doof the cast thing. Yeah.
Do the OC thing. Okay, this is not funny. Let's move on. All right. So in the community, we get some amazing stories this week. I want to point out that we have 3 new submitters. So thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really, really appreciate you reaching out and trying something new in the right thing.
So speaking on the submissions, Matthias, what words did you choose, and how did, well, you already went over roughly how this week of writing went, but just let us know again.
It was El Struggle, as I like to call it. But I used Own, Versed, and Initiate.
Okay, nice.
So I use Initiate as like an initiate in like a cult, basically. Versed as in like versed meter, and Own, I don't remember, I used the word Own. But I had the idea early on, and it was just a matter of like expanding it over time. And it's not too complicated, but I think it's one of my on the better than average side of the stories. That's pretty good.
All right, yeah. I mean, that's the only hope, is that it's above average.
Mm-hmm.
And on my end, I used Strew, Own, and Initiate. And yeah, this week went pretty good. I started writing on Friday, and I finished it, and I went back and looked at it on Saturday, because I thought we were actually going to record on Saturday. And yeah, I think I enjoy it. Yeah, there's nothing really much else to really say about it beyond I liked writing this story, and I might continue on it if I see it fit. So yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, well, without further ado, let's jump into your story.
So the title of this one is Ball on the Run. Left on for too long, the fluorescent lights over the kitchen will buzz like a phone on vibrate. It isn't annoying, just ever present, like the clink of an ice machine or hum from a console. In the eyes of residents past, it built character for the 4-bedroom. So did the cracked ceilings and water damage, all of which pass inspection every year. It's comfortable living. Being in the poorest part of Waif, you don't get many 4 beds, especially ones where everything works. Tonight Oso stares at the light, trying for the 100th time to figure out how to stop the buzz. He had just cleaned the kitchen, as per Fridays being chore day. Organized the fridge, cleaned the dishes and counters. Now the counters are still stained brown. Could be from coffee or gravy. But it's squeaky clean to the touch, and Oso swears he's making progress with the stain. In the wake of his chores, he decided to re-dirty a glass and pour him a Jack and Coke as the kettle warms up. An avid fan can't go to the big game on an empty stomach. You always miss the best goals when you're waiting for a dog. So in preparation, he scored a pack of overpriced seafood cup noodle and has been eyeing it for this very occasion. He didn't look like the type to own a kettle. He was too street punk. Even now, in the comfort of his own home, he wears a large black bomber covered in patches and phrases with no rhyme or reason to any of them. 2 flashy knives strapped to his left arm, each with his own pouch and phrase. That hurt. His hair is inspired too, oiled up and slicked back to the side. A stylized Oso, freshly shaved in his head. With all that being said, he still seemed friendlier than most. Didn't take himself too seriously and didn't strut around like he's itching for a fight. As the kettle starts to roar, his roommate strewn on the couch stirred. Their pastel-colored shirts and khakis wrinkled and pungent with the smell of smoke and wine. They're 9 to 5 people. Woke up early, bared Waif traffic, and punched in numbers all day for the hopes of a promotion. Living the life. Everything they need taken care of by a sizable salary and solid benefits. Oso used to be there. Used to manage these guys, actually. But stagnation set in. So he shaved his head and started betting. It was supposed to be a party of 4, but Bordeaux took 3. Also expected as much. He's the only one that into Sprawl Ball, and the local team isn't even playing tonight. The only reason he gives 2 shits is because his rent money's riding on Weston Ridges, scoring 3 before halftime. After that, Oso's plan was to leave, collect his cash, and walk around Uptown Waif like he belonged there. His hopes would be to get into something, chat up some lovely lady feeling adventurous enough to take a punk boy home. Hasn't happened before, but he just shaved his head, i.e., he's looking extra good tonight. There was electricity in the air. The best of Waif and the rest filled in. Some 6,000 already there when Oso rolled up. The seats reached the blue dome ceiling, declining down to the racetrack. The bottom seats being just above the polarized magnet walls that made the whole thing work. There was everyone there, from moms to bachelors to cyborgs to Borgs, all chattering over the Galvarian bass metal that quickly became the theme of the games. But the loudest thing for 7 miles is the chanting. Sprawl Ball downfall, Sprawl Lives Matter. They came out in legions tonight. The anti-sprawl PETA punks who dressed shockingly similar to Oso. Picket signs in hand and pamphlets detailing their cause, the PETA punks practically blocked the entrance, legally not allowed to completely halt the presses. So the only way through was a tunnel of yelling 20-somethings that smelt of kibble and gel. No one appreciated their presence. Hell, they just came to see a game and not question its ethics. Oso understood it. The sprawl couldn't do its thing if it didn't have legs and some form of consciousness. If they treated them better when they're not in play, then yeah, maybe PETA wouldn't be there trying to initiate a revolution. But a sprawl is meant to run, meant to use the polarity of its surroundings to jetstream round obstacles. The creature is quick-witted and crafty. The only reason anybody can catch one is by using the polarities in a similar way. So a swift bump on the head keeps them in line. An hour later and the games are off. The concrete carvers and Crawford cutthroats line up. The grays and purples, 5x5 in a V formation facing each other, ready for war. Sprawl is a mixture of almost every old world game. It has the head-to-head contact of rugby, padding like football, the fancy footwork of soccer, and 6 evenly placed hoops like basketball. The goal is to hold the sprawl as long as possible, most only catching it in their grips for a second or 2 before the bugger breaks free. The hoops add a tactical advantage unique to each team. Tossing the sprawl through one grants the team's tech team control of the polarities for 10 seconds. The carvers are aggressive this year, so Oso figured they'd crank it up and toss the cutthroats off the track. With the carvers going full throttle and a empty track, they could score 2, maybe 3 seconds. The cutthroats, on the other hand, would turn it down. Their gear being extra sensitive should maintain with the lower polarity, practically casting slow on the carvers and the sprawl and giving them a lasting advantage till halftime. After the game, Oso grabbed a corner in the underbelly of the stadium to call his landlord. Told him rent would be a couple of days late. What an upset. Weston was off this game. After the carvers threw the cutthroats into the stands, they just couldn't get ahead. Not even Weston, the best player in the sport, could get a hand on the sprawl. 4.2 seconds to 2. Also, not going home empty-handed since he put down a 10 per sec bet on the carvers. But $47 isn't much in wave. So his plan to throw money around till some girl takes him home was off the table. Probably wasn't even going to go through with it, but now he'd never get the opportunity. Next week when his residuals come in, he'd think harder on his bet. Maybe Weston is washed up. He thought the king would be on top forever, but the new blood coming through concrete is promising. Might just be on the come-up. Instead of cutting his losses and riding back home, Oso wandered around the underground, peeking into old locker rooms and talking to other disappointed fans who bet with their heart instead of their mind. Aimlessness led him to where they keep the sprawls, in a adjacent annex building cleaned to perfection just a few feet from the stadium. Fools left it unlocked. Oso was feeling bad, walking where he's not supposed to, breaking in under the cover of night. So he lit a stick cleverly hidden under his knife pouches. The annex was filled with purrs, sprawls at sleep, each one shoved in an iron cage, 5 per box, and double locked. Oso walked among them, admiring how cute they are when they're not on the run. Like fuzzy balls of soft metallic fur, big black eyes, and strangely gaunt appendages that kind of dangled out, boneless. The smoke carried further into the annex, deep in a dark back room just past the cages. Movement could be heard, then a cough, but not a person's cough. One of them must not be tuckered out like the rest. Oso went to look, brushed past the cages with a loose finger on his knife. The back room was ajar, the door engraved with a single word, Mama. He pushed inside, slowly, to see an empty room that was probably once a bathroom. The tile was peeled up and thrown in the corner with the mold. Next to it was a small cage, smaller than the rest, with a large sprawl watching him. Oso walked in and closed the door behind him. The sprawl sniffs, catching a whiff of the smoke. Hey, little girl, you like the smell? The sprawl nods and purrs, delighted for company. Oso walks closer, lowering himself to seem less threatening until he's face to face with the creature. Sprawl showed an affinity towards his stick, nudged closer to it. Oso picked up on her vibe and passed it to her, the little thing cluelessly puffing it. Why have they got you back here, Mama? Oso asked the creature. He half expected it to talk, her eyes so alive. The sprawl looked down, sad eyes broken and embarrassed. He knew what was up. It was obviously obvious. Kept her back here, forced her to pop out as many sprawls as she could before making her herself play. Before, he never got it, or expected something like this to be going on, but never has he looked one in their eyes. Split a stick with one, saw something familiar. Also looked around the room for the glint of keys, and, next to the rubble and mold, found them. You want to come home with me, Mama?
Well, fantastic story, Jarvis. So this is another story in the world of Waif. I really like how this is self-contained and it doesn't have too many connections to the other stories. So we aren't lost if we haven't read the other stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's also very, very different from the others. It's more of a more standard punk kind of world. It's a shit place. There's not a lot going on for people's lives, especially these characters. And they're finding, Oso in particular is finding solace in the bread and games, specifically the games portion of government.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I really like the setting. I love the description in the beginning, just like this. You're very good at describing horrible apartments. You just have a knack for that.
Yeah, I'm pulling from personal experience.
And you've quickly characterized this character of Oso and how one little thing is that I wasn't sure of how punk he is, because he's recently punked, right?
Yeah,
he's recently shaved his head and things like that, but he already has the whole getup, which is pretty admirable. He jumped straight in.
Oh yeah, he jumped in with 2 feet because apparently working a solid 9 to 5 didn't really give him whatever joy he kind of was looking for in Waif.
Yeah, I like how you describe the roommates, and they're on the couch. They're all strewn on the couch, and they're all in pastel shirts and khakis. 9 to 5 people woke up early, bared, waved traffic, punching numbers all day for the hope of promotion, living the life. It's very clear they're very much not.
Yeah, or at least that's the perception of Oso towards them. Yeah.
Okay, so it's in the second section, right? We go to the big game, right? I think this could have benefited a bit for some more explanation of what Sprawl is, because Sprawl is both a game and it's the creatures, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was a little confused at the beginning because first the word Sprawl, I was like, that's like a place, like the sprawl of a city, right? So Sprawl Ball Downfall. So it was like downtown. The sprawl, and then Sprawl Lives Matter. I was like, okay, people in the sprawl, their lives matter. But then you had PETA, and I was like, is PETA a sci-fi term, or is it literally PETA from like
It's
Earth?
literally PETA.
Right. So I think it just to address that, just having like a bit, just explaining what Sprawl. That Sprawl is both a game and an animal. Just real quick.
Yeah, I mean, what I did after that, after you see the PETA people, there was a paragraph kind of describing exactly why they are there, and that, you know, these sprawls they're meant to run, and if they were treated better, then of course the PETA people wouldn't be there. But yeah, I would definitely probably add a lot more of like, at least like where like either where a sprawl comes from or certain things about the sprawl creature, because as I was writing it, it became a more important part of the story as it went on.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, is how much of it was important. Yeah. So just like a section at the beginning, I think, or a section, there's like a sentence or two at the beginning of that section saying something like, Sprawl, the creature is not the game. That's what they were protesting.
Okay, so just something to kind of clarify a lot of things that are going to be talked about more later. I get it.
Yeah, like we don't actually need to know what Sprawl look like until you show us. Like, we just need to know that they're animals. I understood that. So the Sprawl is like alive, right? So it's like it's a ball, but it's also alive, like a snitch in Harry Potter. And they have to catch it and dunk it in the 6 basketball hoops on each side.
Yeah, well, similar. I mean, the goal is to hold it as long as possible.
Okay.
Because, you know, the score is based off of like seconds, right? But if you Matisse is dying. But if you do dunk it, I think, yeah, so if you do dunk it, your team basically gets control of the polarity of the magnets for a certain section of time, which I kind of added that to make it more of a team-based game and like kind of I don't know, add another layer to Sprawl Ball. How if you dunk it, you can basically just mess up the like other team for the entire game. So I don't know. I think okay. I would definitely go back and probably add a lot more to it, because.
Well, actually, I think you could cut it a little bit because I mean, unless if this was like a longer story, like it's not really that necessary to know exactly what's happening in it. Like I mean, I think the amount that you have is pretty great. Like I got the sense that like this is cool stuff that you want to tell us about, but it's not like super relevant to the story. Like this isn't a sports movie, right?
Okay, yeah.
Where the main conflict is really Osu making really bad decisions.
Or really good decisions. We don't know. I mean...
Yeah, maybe.
But I know if I were to like go back, I would definitely put a lot more... not in the very beginning, but at least when he gets to the stadium, I would want to do a lot more with like what a sprawl is. I would kind of want to set up what the like outside is, because I see it on the equivalent of football, you know, of like this is the Super Bowl-esque of a sprawl.
Oh wow, so it's big.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, I thought it was just like a local game basically.
Yeah. So basically, it is big, but it's not that big. So it's like, yeah. So basically, how I see it, it is the beginning of the finals, right? So the games are big, but they're not that big, right? And there are sprawl teams on all 4 of the cities that is kind of in this world: Waif, Concrete, Crawford, and Weekend.
Oh, Weekend City has a sprawl
yes,
team.
Which I'm still trying to figure out how that works.
Sure.
Because they are stuck in the 50s.
We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah,
they are stuck in the 50s.
Or 50s, 20s.
If you guys want to go back and listen to old episodes in which Jarvis writes about Weekend City, you might want to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the web serial of Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely plan to play in this world a lot more because, I mean, for the entire month of December, I've kind of just been writing on it here and there. So, yeah, I don't know. In writing this, I think one thing that I kind of really learned is that I'm enjoying a third person narrative a lot more than I have in the past. Because normally almost it's first person because I like being in the character's head. But I think with a third person, you're able to still be in that head while also giving a lot more details. I feel that the diction that I used is not as inspired by this character, but by kind of the lens of the world that I want the audience to really look through.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm loving it a lot more. I basically see it as, hey, if this were to be filmed, this is how I want it to be kind of translated, I guess.
Right, portrayed. Yeah, no, that's a great point. You're viewing it through a lens of your own making rather than the character. I mean, I guess you make them both, but a lens to see the world rather than just whatever the character sees it through. That's really interesting. I hadn't considered that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to just talk about the last section for a little bit, specifically just some more about character. So you have also give a cigarette to an animal, which I was like,
it isn't a cigarette; it's a stick.
It's a stick,
yeah, which is
that's on fire.
Well, I mean, so
and he's puffing on.
Not to talk about lore right now, right? But a stick is like a illegal opiate, I think. Okay. That it's super skinny, like it's really thin, like literally it is as thin as a pasta noodle, right? And once you light it, you hit it, and it, I don't know, does opioid things for you.
Okay.
So it is not a cigarette. He gave the Sprawl drugs. Get it right.
Okay, good.
But apparently the Sprawl really loved it, or at least Mama did. So.
Well, I just found that choice interesting. It did say a lot about his character. It was like, okay, he just kind of does stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he does stuff. Also, I wanted to build a quick connection between them because granted I was definitely running out of time, and I don't know, like, also I just really liked the mental image of this punkish dude kneeling by this cage in this horrible bathroom, and he takes the stick out of his mouth, hands it to the Sprawl, and then the Sprawl just quickly figures out what it is and starts puffing it. So
well, I thought that was a really interesting way to take the character and a good way to end the thing, where I'm not really sure, some analysis would have to be done here of like what exactly this is saying about Oso's character and how he's changed over realizing that he's not going to get any money this way. Well, like one little connection, right, is that he passes through by the PETA punks, right? And, well, PETA's shitty, IRL. PETA is not a good organization. But I don't know how it is in this world. And these PETA punks, well, they're punks like him, except they actually have a passion. They have a cause, right? They're actually going out and doing stuff. They're being proactive and actually, fighting against the man, while Oso is literally, like, he feels like a poser a little bit.
Definitely is.
Where, yeah, he's going to go, he goes to see the big game and just, like, bets. It's like, how different is that from everyone else?
Well,
right?
like, how I kind of saw it, right, is that I'm not sure about the timeline, but I would say maybe 3 to 6 months before this. He was definitely working that like 9 to 5. So he is new to it.
Right.
And he's still the same person that he was before. I mean, he was the average Joe of Waif, right? He would go to the big game. He'll grab a brew. He'll have a great time, you know. So now he's trying for this new style, but he is the rebel without a cause, basically.
Right, and it seems like at the end of this, maybe he does pick up a cause.
It could be with the
decides to free, or maybe his own angle on that.
Also, I definitely see him trying to make money on it somehow, but
of course,
it wouldn't be Waif or Weekend or whatever if there wasn't some sort of gray ulterior motive. So,
well, right. Anything else you want to talk about your story?
No, not really. I love writing it. I think I will definitely revisit this for maybe like a longer short story, nothing too much really, but I love writing it, and if anyone has anything to say on it, you can always email us and let us know.
Well, all right,
Mr. Sick Boy, how are you?
Mr. Sick Boy, that's me. I'm sick. I still have strep. So that's what's going on in my life. And I have a story to share. So I'm just gonna share the story. I don't have anything else to say before we start. So let's just
share that shit.
It's all going to be worth it. They chanted in versed meter, higher and higher in pitch, until Jonathan was at the very precipice of his vocal cords, the point where they gave up and turned into bare tubes. He was kept to that line, balancing a razor's edge in his voice, with the utter certainty that if he slipped, it would all be gone, dashed like glass. It was feverish, and above all, it felt dangerous. Jonathan's feeling of being out of place, the feeling of wrongness, permeated him. He tried not to look at the robed figures around him, set in a circle, chanting. The room was lit only by a ring of fire around the room, and the incense, with a strange scent that made Jonathan think exclusively of burning homes. "I'm sorry, Ben. I'm so sorry." The father raised a hand, and the chanting stopped. Jonathan had long ago stopped trying to decipher the words, and now an echo of them seemed to fill the space, soft as whispers, though the actual sound was long gone, like the chanting had left an imprint on the air. The heavy oaken doors to the cave-like room opened. 2 brothers guarded it, while a third dragged the sacrifice in. It was a calf, and its eyes were wide and white. It tried to get up, but Brother Marcus just pulled on the forelimbs harder, and it stumbled back down, resigned in getting dragged to the center of the circle. The flames didn't leave a mark on him, but that didn't matter in the end. The smoke was enough. It was dragged into the center of the circle. One of the circle stepped forward and kneeled, holding the calf in place. The father, who was outside the circle, handed a dagger to the next person, and the person after that also kneeled and helped to hold the calf down. The knife wielder stepped closer to the calf, and then dragged the dagger across its face. The calf bellowed, and blood poured from its split lips and brow. It thrashed, but the 2 brothers in robes held it down. The room was silent, but for noises of exertion, of breathing, and of blood. "Come on, Ben. Please breathe. Come on." They rocked back and forth. Ben's too small frame held tight in John's arms. John brushed the long hair out of his brother's face. He could move it himself. "Stay put, all right? Wherever you are, don't go anywhere. I'll get you back." The knife was passed to the right, and the brothers to the left and right of the new knife wielder knelt and held the calf down. The room was filled with the scent of fear and human sweat and copper. Again, the calf was slashed, an X this time, crossing the previous cut and ending at the calf's ear. Jonathan did his best not to flinch with each slash. The calf's eyes were wide, full of fear, but more than that, it seemed confused. There was no way it could understand why this was happening. The freezer was cold, but John couldn't study anywhere else, not without his brother. The books had taken a long time to be found, but he had found them. In the book about the Brotherhood, He found what he was looking for. John smiled for the first time in a long time. He looked at his brother. It's gonna be okay. I'll get you back. It didn't need to be happening. The Brotherhood's rituals were powerful. Jonathan had seen and read of their powers. Powers of fire and deep earth, over life and death. Jonathan was here for that power. But this ritual wasn't magical at all. This was just a way of bonding over pain. It was almost his turn now. Jonathan knelt and held the calf down, as the man to his left took the knife. Jonathan held the poor calf's head, one arm hooked around its neck, and the other pressing down on its shoulders, as the blood overflowed off its face and into his robes, sticky and hot. The calf looked up right into Jonathan's face, and the robe couldn't hide him from it anymore. Behind the fear, behind the confusion in its poor, pained eyes, there was his brother's brown eyes. It'll be worth it in the end, Ben. Just a few more months of this. I'll gain their trust, and I'll get access. I'll have you back. I will. Jonathan looked away from its eyes. Not truly his brother's eyes, just like them, and held painfully tight as the man to his left slashed the calf, this time from neck to middle of the spine. It was hardly necessary to hold it anymore. It only flinched and then held still, resigned to more pain, almost limp. The man to Jonathan's right kneeled to hold the calf as the one to his left handed him the knife and kneeled down too. The knife was heavy. Both ends of it were wet, warm, and sticky, the blade with blood, the handle with the sweat and warmth of regret. The sleeves and chest of his robe stuck to him, and the spots shone dimly in the candlelight. The calf's eyes were elsewhere at the moment, staring at another member of the circle, accusing them of something personal. I don't want to do this, Jonathan thought. He cut the calf, from behind one ear, around the back of the head, under the jaw, and back up through the nose. His cut tore across 3 earlier cuts, and there was so much blood, hot as fire. It thrashed as it hadn't since the first cut. He'd had to use both hands. Its eyes were made of white betrayal. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Somewhere, Ben is watching, and Ben is made unhappy. There is too much blood, and the poor baby cow is hurting. Jonathan shivered. The knife continued on around the circle, and the calf was cut. It went around 8 more times. He had to cut it 8 more times. It thrashed more for a while before it finally, mercifully, lost consciousness from blood loss. By then, its skin was more tears than unparted flesh, and every movement around the circle was marked by soft red splashes. They have knowledge here, hidden from their own members. The father nodded, and one last time the knife came around, but now each initiate cut the back of his left hand. The pain sang to Jonathan, but it was too little. He made it deeper and longer than he had to. I'll get you back. The knife went around, then was placed into a box, still wet. The father nodded. The initiates and Jonathan bent down and dipped their hands in the pool. The calf seemed to stare back with 1,000 eyes from under 1,000 lids. They were all responsible for this. According to the texts, they were brothers now. Even if I have to betray everyone, even the world. And that's the story.
Boy, howdy, do I love a good ritual. But no, that was a really good story. I enjoyed how in detail you were about how they butchered this cow, and even more so, I enjoyed this connection that the main character has to someone else, and how they're being initiated into this cult while having a ulterior motive to gain the hidden knowledge that they do have, and then I guess using that to end it all. Yeah.
Just some necromancy. Just some light necromancy.
Yeah. So like,
and don't worry, his brother's body is intact.
Okay.
It's in a freezer somewhere.
Okay. So it's not like Full Metal where there's nothing left.
No, it's in a freezer.
Okay. So
that's yeah.
So what were the things? Of course, you being sick probably played a part, but what brought you to want to write this story?
Just versed, and then it just flowed from there. I don't really remember, honestly. It's my whole week has been a blur. Not because it's partying, just because it's, because I'm tired and dealing with immune system stuff. I mean, I wrote those first 2 paragraphs about the chanting first, and then I didn't write anything for like 2 days.
Okay. So you have to get back into it.
Yeah, I continued. The timer just like continued, and I just didn't do anything. I was like, well, that's not acceptable. I can't really turn in a story of 60 words. So that's when I thought about the why are they there, and they're here to do a necromantic. They're here to learn necromancy, and then the cow and all that. There's plenty here that I feel like really needs to be expanded upon, like. Why specifically cutting the cow? Like what are they ritually doing, right? Other than just hurting it,
what is the goal of this?
Right? Why a cow and not a human being? Obvious questions like that.
I mean, overall, as I was listening to you read it and also reading it myself, I mean, I will say that it definitely felt a little expedient at parts, but then at other parts, it kind of slowed down. So the pacing was it wasn't even throughout, which I think obviously if you had more time or like a solid grasp on like what's actually happening, then of course it would flow a lot better. But
yeah, and then some other stuff of just like I don't make it super clear about what exact. I know like I do stuff to imply that he wants to bring Ben back from the dead. But it's like I'm not spelling it out at all, and I feel like I could give some clear clues of like, here's the direction it's supposed to be interpreted in,
Yeah.
But the main thing is I don't know how much emotion was felt from this, so you could say it wasn't super emotionally affecting. That's totally okay. I just need to know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that I definitely understood what was going on. I understood what you were setting up, and I did feel for the cause that the main character is going towards. I think overall the emotion that I'm feeling the most is intrigue. I am very interested as to where this will go, because how I see it is that it'll be a very fun thing of this person being in this cult, doing all these cult things, talking to the people, while also trying to sneak off and do other things. God, what is something similar? Have you seen the 2019, I think, Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Not really.
Oh, well, there are moments within this show that are very similar, I feel, to what you're kind of trying to go for. So it gave me the same feeling. Of course, you did it a lot better because the writing in Sabrina the Teenage Witch is abysmal. But
okay, well, thank you for saying so. On emotions, to go back just a tiny bit, I think one of the problems is that I opened with Ben's dead. That's like the second. Well, that's not the second memory, but it's pretty early on. And I think maybe if I left it for like the second to last memory, basically, I think I could have like really pushed that of like, hey, that's why he's doing these horrible things, build up that emotion and capitalize it on that moment rather than doing it really early just to explain what's going on. So there's a lot I would change about this, basically.
I mean, I feel you letting us know that Ben is dead in the beginning did work, because then it painted all of the acts in a different light, because you basically instantly understood what was going on. But I feel if you're trying to hit on that emotion, you could definitely have something like that in the beginning that basically lets us know that he's doing this for Ben, and then maybe reveal he's dead later on. I don't know.
I'm thinking if I just put early on that he's infiltrating this cult in order, and he doesn't trust anyone, right? So build up the tension that way, right? He has to like prove himself, which is why he's so harsh on the calf, which is not in the story at all. But he has to prove himself because he wants to learn necromancy, right? And we then figure out over time why he wants to use necromancy. It's not just to summon skeletons; it's to bring back his brother, who died of a fire or something. I don't know.
He had a heart attack.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Yeah, I feel like this is a first draft, and I think if I started from scratch and rewrote it, I think it would be a lot clearer. But I think I might wait to do that until I'm sane again. So
yeah. So like after writing this, right? Is there anything that you could really take away? Maybe not even about character or the story, just about your style and craft in general.
Well, okay, so one thing that I actually specifically set out to do after... Well, I wrote, like, most of the events that's happening in the story, and I didn't write much of the memories, and then I realized, wait, let's give Jonathan some motivations. And then I realized that, like, I've actually, like, really shied away from putting memories in stories and, like, weaving memories recently. I don't know. There's just some part of my brain that's been, like, that seems too difficult. I don't want to do that. And so I was trying to push it a little bit by doing that. And it's a pretty basic skill that I feel like you really need to have a handle on. So I think for this and for other stories, I'm going to push it a little bit. And it's also like a good way to just like bring up some dramatic tension and reveals and stuff like that. Because then you can reveal stuff that's in the past, just they haven't thought about it yet. Yeah,
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat there. At least I find it hard to know when to bring up a certain memory, how long to really stay
and
there.
How, right?
Yeah,
like,
how.
Do I go...
Like, what is the caveat of doing it?
Right, do I go, Jonathan, remember? Do I have to do that? Or can I just cut, right? How long, how short can they be before they're just, like, too short, right? So these are things I need to experiment with, and I feel like any experienced writer is just like, well, you just, like, do it. Well, I think that's all we have about my story, so let's move on to the next section.
Yeah, which is our listener-submitted stories. Thank you so much, everyone that submitted. We got, 3 new writers?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely bonkers. I am more than pleased right now.
So we're going to talk about 5 stories this week, but please remember that every single time you do the right thing and you submit, your chance of getting selected goes up. These stories are incredible, and we're absolutely going to spoil them, so please go and read them. They're absolutely worth a read, unspoiled. So please go and do that. We'll wait for you.
We're waiting.
All right, let's go talk about them. We'll be talking about stories by Shin7, Calinero 985, Meteora 22, Ace of Sword, and Lucasop 86.
Lucasop 86!
All right, so who do we want to talk about first?
First, let's start with the good old Calinero 985.
And oof, it's a doozy of a story. It's
I'm in love with it.
This is very, very good. So this story is called Sanity Loss, and it's this character. They're driving toward a mental institute. They make that drive once a year, I think, to go meet an old friend. All of their other friends that used to come with them are either long gone or just don't care anymore about going, and we slowly come to understand that basically the main character and their friends, when they were kids, they experienced basically like the Stephen King book or something like that.
Yeah.
They saw
some sort of horrible creature,
some horrible alien creature that like broke some of their minds. They had other friends at the time, but they Ewan clawed out his own eyes and died. And so each of them have dealt in their own way, all for the most part not very well.
Yeah.
Gregory lost his faith in God. Tobias killed himself with a gun that they used to shoot the creature, I'm pretty sure.
One of them was left alone and slowly went insane.
Well, I'll get to that one in a second. I wanna get to all the others first because we deal with each of the friends of the kids on bikes as they are in the future. Min Lee has basically kind of denied the whole thing. She hasn't really, but like she's like fully moved on but like probably has not dealt with it. While our main character is still struggling, right? She could look at us and see friends, someone to see Christmas cards to or chat about the old days. I couldn't look at her without seeing her pinned against the back of a decaying cabin by a hulking shape that still hurt my eyes to think of. Blood and pieces of Ewan strewn around the ground, sharp tendrils raking across her back. But yeah, so this character is going to the mental institute where the last friend, Terry.
Terry,
yeah. Terry. Terry is there, and his mind is broken.
Shattered.
And we see that the main character is a really good person. He comes and helps his friend every year and has that conversation with him, just tries to catch up. And then finally, Terry actually like gets some of his mind back for a couple minutes, and he just wants to confirm that he saw it, that they both saw it. The horrible creature, which is like an eldritch being, like it wasn't supposed to be real, basically. We understand fully that Terry's problem is that like he doesn't understand how anyone else could have possibly dealt with that. And there's these really like heartbreaking and terrifying lines about how the shape, the colors, the way it couldn't be there was what broke him.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we get that the main character's main problem is he's kind of forgotten most of the monster. He only remembers the monster when he's thinking of his friends, but he's forgotten the monster. I'm gonna read the last line, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
When I close my eyes and am haunted by that night, it isn't by the image of the beast we destroyed. It's by the image of my friend who I left to rot, who couldn't deal with it alone. So yeah, so this is an amazing storytelling in 95.
I mean, overall, like for me, there's not one thing that's not there, right? It is very similar to it, but it definitely hits on slightly different notes.
Yeah, it plays on the trope. It's like the monsters dealt with. That's not really what the story's about. The story's about the aftermath and how the friends failed their friend.
Yeah, and I think honestly, it's a very powerful piece. I know. Like, I read every single word, right? Like, I was just stuck to the page with this one. So, really great job, Calanero, like, through and through.
Yeah, I don't have that much more to say other than please go read it. It's very, very good.
So, next up is Ace of Sword with Manual Override. It is a prequel to a previous sci-fi entry, Recovery, which, did we talk about that one?
Yeah, no, we did. Yeah, we did. It was a cool one where I'm pretty. It's where like an AI robot thing is hitching a ride on a pod and like has to like take over the pilot that thought it escaped it. Basically.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, this one is a prequel to that story.
Yeah. So in this one, we see some interesting characters. Basically. An angry captain woman, just angry that her station's been destroyed, basically, or not destroyed, but like killed. But she still has control over her own ship, and she's planning to ram it into the enemy ship. And basically, over the rest of it, we get some more about the world, about how the ship works and the AI and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like overall, I think it's fantastic world building to a T. And also that just comes with making a sci-fi. There are certain things that if you hit on, it'll just instantaneously get the audience into it. But with this one, it wasn't only the bits about the world and the ship, but also the dialogue is it
felt alive.
Yeah, it's very inspired when I can see these characters being here, talking to each other, and going through this. So, yeah, great read.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one as just another entry into this sci-fi world.
Yeah, I mean, like Ace of Swords they keep knocking it out of the park with these entries in these wider worlds. So,
I think, and then the story ends with she gets in an escape pod, and then. We get a section break and she's fighting some soldiers where she's basically gonna die, and we kind of get the feeling that she's gonna be the creature in the other story, the one that this is a prequel to, is kind of the result of that. But yeah, I love sci-fi stuff. I love cool sci-fi stuff. So this is exactly what I like to read.
Exactly. So please keep on doing what you're doing, Ace of Swords, because if you keep doing it, we'll keep reading it.
Hell yeah. All right, the next story we're going to talk about is by LucasOp86, The Boxing Ring, which is in 2 parts.
Part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, so this is the title's a little bit of a pun because it's mostly about it's I think I said mostly, like both and mostly. It's about both some characters who box and a ring that is used for boxing. Yeah. So basically, Lemmy is looking. She has hidden a ring under the kitchen floorboards. She got the ring from a really creepy magic shop. Basically, not that this world normally has. It's just a creepy shop.
But the ring
that happens to have cursed items. Yes, where it has a little needle on it, and if you get pricked by it, you basically want to kill yourself. And so it's pretty horrifying that we're introduced to it, where the shopkeeper nicks a squirrel, and the squirrel goes and impales itself on fisherman's hooks. So it's pretty horrifying. Gruesome. So Lemmy buys it and then hides it under the floorboard so that no one will use it because it's horrible. She lives with her girlfriend Tondra, and Tondra, she's a victim of some horrible trauma and is obsessed with looking up sex offenders and stuff like that just to feel safe. Lemmy kind of realizes that Tondra has stolen the ring a while ago from under the floorboards and has been making sex offenders kill themselves this whole time. And so Lemmy then fights Tondra and feels betrayed, and in the scuffle maybe got pricked by the ring as well. And so I'm summarizing a bit like pretty fast, but there's a lot here about the personal conflict where Tondra is not entirely incorrect in her motivations. Although I would point out that not everyone on the sex offender registry really did something that bad. Some people just pissed in public. You know what I'm saying? But
that is very bad. True. Yeah,
but
which is bad, but there are different levels of it.
But yeah, so Tondra, for the most part, ignoring that is pretty justified in her actions, but it is also murder.
Yeah, and it is morally ambiguous, which I think was really played on throughout. The thing that I like the most is that as you're learning about these characters, the writer allowed certain things to be a surprise, like, oh, she is killing the sex offenders, and then we actually go, and then we follow Lemmy to the place, and even though the story itself is jam-packed and is written, like, the pacing is very quick, it matches exactly what is happening within the story, so very well done.
Yeah, I mean, what's cool about it is that since it's a short story, right, these things come pretty quick, right, and so when Tondra goes to the sex offender's house, we know what's about to happen, and we realize that just before we get confirmation, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's really, really well done. So thank you for joining us, LucasOp. I know this is your first submission to Do the Right Thing, and I hope to see more of them.
Oh yeah, 100%, especially if you're writing like this.
The next story is by Shin7, Well of Wealth. So this story is basically, it's set in this world where there's a lot of monks of some holy order with the scriptures of holy fire and things like that. So Zelo is this peasant who's basically impersonating a monk and following the procession of monks to their temples. And we see a lot of the world building stuff. I really enjoy the stuff that we did learn about the religion. Like we have a paragraph talking about the 10 rules of the order. So Zelo doesn't know most of them, but one, which might have been the 6th, was to never pick up anything from the ground, as it had touched the place in which the dead rest. It was now hallowed and forbidden, but to the priests of piety and the priestesses of the Golden Mask. Which I find very interesting. Like that's a really interesting idea for a religion, that you're not allowed to touch the ground. I imagine that, like, at least monks aren't allowed to. That's probably pretty difficult for farmers to do that. But yeah. So we see a lot about the world building here, and Zelo has heard of some rumors where there's a fountain of gold in the temple, and so he follows the monks in, and like the fountain of gold like has magical properties according to legend. and he sees some kind of like horrifying stuff where one of the monks has like a burned hand that's covered in gold, and then dips that hand into a well and basically covers it in molten gold. That's how we understand it. And we end with Zelo wanting to look at it himself.
I mean, the shining accomplishment of the story, as you said, was that it did take the time to help the audience really understand what this religion is, because it plays a large part in the future, how there's this kind of mysticism about the world.
I think the world building is the real highlight here, and just the character of Zelo, and he's kind of mischievous. He's kind of just like going with it. Like he's getting himself deeper and deeper into trouble without even like really considering the consequences, which was fun. For a little bit of a critique, I found it a little bit hard to understand what exactly was going on in some of the earlier sections. Like upon a reread, it was more understandable, but I was like in the beginning, he's like following the procession of monks, but we like cut back to his house where he punched a monk. And I didn't fully understand that he like took the monk's clothes and continued on.
Yeah.
So there was actually like,
I feel that's kind of just like left up to a sentence or two of context and setting. Yeah. And like honestly, it's as simple as after he punches him, is like, and then I disrobed him, and then the audience can really put those pieces together, but we as of right now, we don't really have those pieces to kind of connect.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit before we get into Zelo's motivations. So I was confused as to why exactly he was deciding to go with these monks and stuff like that. So just some stuff clearing that up. It's just putting that, like at the end, right, he sees the golden hand, right, and says with that amount of gold, Zelo could buy a new farm. He could probably buy tens of farms if he wished, which is very much like, okay, he's greedy. Great, I completely understand why he's doing this. Yeah. So just, I think, adding that a little bit to the beginning and just clearing up some of the actions, I think would be super helpful.
But either way, great story, Shin 7.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one, and I want to see more of, I want to see what the other rules are of the 10 rules.
Give us the other 9.
Yeah, we demand it. Do we only have one story left, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. So our last story for this week is Meteora 22. Who I know, I think we read it last week as well. Or we read them last week.
Yes.
Which is the luck of the draw.
And this is a classic heist.
Yeah, a classic heist that doesn't necessarily go wrong, but goes not good.
Yeah, it goes a little overboard.
Yeah, so Clarence is the main character, and he's kind of like the good one out of all of them. He doesn't want to be scaring these people. So him and his team are in a bank. It's not a heist. It's a bank robbery. Yeah, armed bank robbery. Mm-hmm. So they need to open the safe, and so they threaten the bank teller to get the codes, and the bank teller like almost. Like, he numbly fights back until he gives up and gives them the code after being threatened that other people are going to die and that he's going to die, etc. So they open the vault, and then they take the money, and then Adam, the leader, as we understand, says, Thanks, Benedict, the bank teller. Here's your reward for doing the right thing.
And then kablam.
Codes. And then he just shoots him in the head.
Yeah, bang, bang.
Which is not very nice and not very good at making other people want to cooperate with you in the future. And so Clarence is really freaked out, like, why this would happen, because that was totally pointless.
Yeah, but they still gotta go. They gotta get out of there because the cop's gonna be there in 30 minutes.
Yeah. So they grab the money and they go, and they get in the car, and they drive away, and we're as the audience, we're pretty horrified by Adam and Gabrielle, the other two members of the team, because like they're doing this for a baby. Like I assume Gabrielle's pregnant, but like they just shot someone in the head.
Yeah, but
they're happy about it.
They also just robbed a bank. Yeah. So,
but at the end, Clarence in the back, Clarence looks at his electronic watch, silently blinking. The 30 minutes up. It's over, he thought. He heaves a sigh of relief. So I just thought that was a cool little do the right thing nod, is that the time is up and now we can move on from headshots.
Exactly.
Now we don't have to be around these terrible people. So I'm really interested in seeing what happens to Clarence after this.
Yeah. Also, I was surprised, because in every other story with some sort of heist, right? Whether it's a bank robbery or trying to steal the pink diamond from Jacques Clouseau or someone, there's always that twist where they don't really get away, or at least like they're being chased or something like that. And this didn't have that, and I didn't feel like anything was really missing. It was just a very, I feel, appropriate end to like what was being set up in a sense. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's a good point, and maybe the reason that you don't feel that anything's missing is because Adam shooting someone in the head is that things going wrong and things not going according to plan and getting worse than they should. So like they got away, but like morally took a hit basically.
Yeah. Also now they're wanted for armed murder. What's it called?
Armed murder.
Armed murder.
Just murder.
Murder both arms.
I think what really helps this is that Clarence is horrified by it. Because if it was just Adam and Gabrielle and he shoots someone and then we move on, we'd just be like, oh, this is just gratuitous. It's a violent bank robbery. But since Clarence is there and like not into it, it's pretty good.
Yeah, Clarence acts as us.
Yeah, I think what would have been really good for this is to have just a little bit more from Clarence of like how is this different from what he expected, right? Like why is he with these people? Is Adam usually like this? Maybe there's a reason Adam decided to shoot Benedict in the head. Is it because he's just like on drugs, or is he just like super like hyped up in the moment, And what's Clarence gonna do about this and stuff?
Yeah.
So
also, I would
really enjoy it.
I would have liked to kind of, because like at the end, of course, we got why Adam and Gabriella decided to rob the bank, and for a bank robbery, there really doesn't have to be a lot of depth into the why. But I would have liked to see why Clarence is there, in a sense,
right?
Because it seems that Clarence isn't really about this life, so that kind of begs the question why. But overall,
you're right.
Great read. I was on the edge of my seat, amped up the whole time. So really good.
All right, so that's all the stories we're going to talk about this week. Let's give out our personal thanks to everyone who submitted. So thank you to No Goodbye.
Thank you, Calinero985.
Thank you, Lucasop86.
Thank you, Haunt for the Heron.
Thank you, Meteora22.
Thank you, Ace of Sword.
Thank you, Torsion Module, who is a new person. I'm sorry they didn't get selected this week, but every time you submit, your chance of getting selected goes up. So just continue on, and you'll get selected in no time. Exactly.
Also, thank you, Shin7.
Thank you... that's everyone?
That's all of them. Thank you, everyone who submitted.
You guys are fantastic. It's so heartening to see the same people coming back every week, and to see new people coming in. I'm wondering how did you guys hear about the podcast? So maybe if you guys want to let us know, you can send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com.
Exactly. Also, if you want to know how can you see these words and have the most time possible to write your fantastic piece, well, that's on our Twitter at RightThingCast.
That's right. And sometimes we post other stuff on there. Who knows? Like I was doing a Disco Elysium Let's Play recently, although I stopped streaming that because my computer can't stream. But maybe that series will come out one day. We'll see. If you want to be like all these wonderful people who submitted, you can go to /r/do-the-right-thing on Reddit, or send us an email with your story. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a story that has 3 of the 4 random words that we're going to give you at the end of this episode.
Exactly. And also, if you want to support us and the other people in the Doof Network, well, you can donate to our Patreon at the $1, the $5, or above level. All of these come with access to the exclusive Discord, and also you will get a kind of a leg up when it comes to picking stories per week. So benefits all around.
That's right. So some other stuff that's going on in Doof Media. I know finally the Media MD episode on the Magnus Archives has finally come out.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited for that. Of course, there is All Packed Up, the Deep Impact special that has been announced, so you can send in questions. And that's not happening till March, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're all going to participate in some ways. There might even be some Do the Right Thing stuff going on in there. The Doofcast just did an episode on Pi, which apparently is a good movie, and at the end of it, they talked about Star Wars. and they said they didn't like it. So if you want to get mad at them, go listen to that episode.
Yeah. Or if you completely agree with them, go listen to that episode.
Yeah, that's right. And send them an email and maybe join the Discord so you can talk to them. That's all we have this week, right? I feel like... Is there anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Oh, okay. Well, just to replug, the Doof the Right Thing contest ends the 17th, so you have this episode and the next episode, and then it's there. It's coming right up. So pick out that old story, give it the edit thing, right? I would just rewrite it full on, and then submit. The top 3 stories are going to be read on the special episode of Doof the Right Thing, and given basically the treatment of this, where we read them and then we talk about them.
Exactly, and also they get cash prizes. Yeah, the
Yeah.
first place is $100, second place is $75, and third place is $25. So hey, any money is good money, and you should try and go for that money.
Very well put, Jarvis. And yeah, don't be afraid of telling other people about it, and just about doing the right thing. I always enjoy it more when there's people I know involved. That way we can comment on each other's stories and stuff like that. Actually, I would give a challenge to everyone listening to go into the comment section of the next post and just leave a comment on a story, right? Go ahead and read it and let them know what you think.
Exactly.
Keep it constructive, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, because the best way to grow as a writer is to figure out how other people view your writing.
Yeah, it's good for you. All right, that's all we have for this episode. So let's find out the words for next week.
Cool. So the words for next week are immerse, honorable, pretend, and abashed.
So immerse as in to be placed underwater, honorable as in to have honor, pretend as in to be something that you're not, and abashed, which I think is like being shy, basically.
Exactly.
All right, so what are you going to write, Jarvis?
So the bashful little boy, Sherry Shepherd, was immersed in Dark Souls 3. He felt like a honorable knight, fighting to rekindle the fire. But then again, it was all just pretend. He wasn't anything like this powerful knight that he played as. In fact, he was weak, feeble, and kind of sad.
Okay. This hits a little close to home, Jarvis.
Does it?
I thought she was honorable, but she immersed me in being abashed after she pretended to like me, and then I drowned myself. I immersed myself in water, and I died because I was so embarrassed.
Damn.
So don't do that. Don't do that to people.
It's
not honorable.
Get you a girl that is honorable. Have you ever honored someone? Well,
okay, thank you so much for joining us on this sick episode of Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing. That was great. That was really good. And Matthias is coughing up his left lung right now.
I've got strap throat.